Hi Soul Space, Sheila Hill here, and it's Monday night at 9. Tonight's topic is about being a people pleaser, and I'm hoping to give you some more information about what being a people pleaser is all about, and then hoping that maybe I can shift some of your behaviors with some tips on people pleaser rehab. So I'm just going to jump right into it, and as you join in on the video, please say hello. So I am a reformed chronic people pleaser. So the way that it sort of expressed itself for me was that I was brought up in a household where things were quite turbulent most of the time. Both of my parents were adult children of alcoholics, so they came into their own relationship with their own baggage. And then I know that my mom had mental illness, and possibly my dad did too. So there was a lot of fighting, a lot of domestic issues, violence to a certain degree. And growing up for me meant that feeling safe, secure, and loved felt like it was something that was more conditional. So I became a people pleaser. Anything and everything that I could possibly do in my household, for my family, for my parents in particular, in order to gain their acceptance, their love, to brighten the mood, to ease the tension in the household, is exactly what I would do. And I learned that through doing that, if I could do enough things or behave a certain way or say something, whatever it is, that would make them be in a better mood, I learned that that was the way to behave, that the way that I could start to feel validated was by doing those types of behaviors. So I took that people-pleasing idea or concept, identity I think probably would be a better word, excuse me, into the rest of my life. So I was a teacher's pet, grade A student, wonderful employee. I would work extra hours, I would work without pay, I would volunteer for everything. I just continued to take that people-pleasing behavior right through most of my adult life until things started to fall apart, and that's another talk for another day. So people that do the people-pleasing type of behaviors typically are people that are looking for validation from outside of themselves to find confidence, worthiness, and love. So where this begins to be a problem is that people pleasers, I'm going to start with this and end with this, so I want you to really take this in. People pleasers mostly only attract takers. I'm going to let you sit with that for a moment. Inventory the people you have in your life and the relationships that you have with them. So, being a people pleaser can show up in many different ways, in that people pleasers tend to agree to do things that they, like inside they wanted to say no, but they wanted to be nice more. So they ended up being more nice and agreed to do things and agreed to keep giving from their empty cup, because saying no to them feels like the world or the person or the family member, the child, whoever, if they said no to them, that person would perceive them as not being nice. So society and everything that we're hardwired to be is to be nice. And for people pleaser, we take that to the nth degree, and saying no feels like a virtual impossibility. But by saying yes all the time, you're actually acting out of integrity with yourself. So it's almost like self-abuse by not being able to say no sometimes. Or to have your people-pleasing offers, abilities, and the things that you're going to do to help people have some kind of boundary. Being a people pleaser can lead to codependent relationships, where you're in a relationship with someone, hi Steph, you're in a relationship with someone who is, you're the pleaser, they're the taker, and you need to constantly be feeding this person in order to receive validation and love from them, and they need to keep taking from you because they're in perhaps a victim mentality where they constantly need to be rescued, for example. So codependent relationships often show up for people pleasers. Lack of boundaries, lack of integrity with themselves, so what I call sort of self-abuse, and enabling. Excuse me. Enabling is a huge one that shows up. Particularly, we had a little bit of a chat on this post when we did the post last week, one of the members and I, about being a people pleaser with your children. So that one's a big deal. And that one often shows up as enabling because we want our children to be happy. We want our children to have more than we had, etc., etc. But what often that ends up translating into is that we end up enabling their behaviors and that they never actually learn to be responsible for themselves. So that's, as you know, when I put it that way, I'm sure it makes sense to all of you that it's not a good idea, but that people-pleasing behavior shows up in parenting very, very, very often, and it ends up with children that grow up not being responsible for themselves. They end up constantly being in victim mentality, which doesn't make for a very nice adult. So, being a people pleaser, now that I've painted that picture, kind of shows you that it's not a very good behavior. The other part to it, sorry, I'm trying to not look at my notes, but I had sort of written down some things I wanted to make sure I talked about. So one final thing about being a people pleaser, and then I'm going to move into some tips on things that you can be practicing. What was the one final tip? No, I lost it. Hang on a second. Is that when you're doing something nice for someone and you're in that people pleasing mode, you're actually being nice with all kinds of strings attached. Because what's being run, the loop that's being run is, if I do this for you, then you'll do this for me, you'll like me, you'll appreciate me. It's a strings attached thing that you're doing. Excuse me. So again, out of that whole concept of being nice and doing nice things for people and wearing that badge of honor that you're a nice person because you're a people pleaser, there's always, not always, but often in the behaviors that you're doing for others, strings attached to it. And then that makes it not very nice, because when we give, we're supposed to be giving from our heart space, no strings attached, doing it from a place where our cup is so full that we have extra to give. And that's really the only time that we should be giving to others, is when our cup is full enough that it's overrun and we give people what we have left over. So what leads to that whole strings attached thing, sort of another downside to people pleasing, and I'm certainly not pointing fingers. I've had to have a very long and serious look at this many times in my life to get to where I am with the people pleasing hardwiring that I have for myself. Hi Poonam. Is that it can become a really slippery slope when you're a people pleaser to resentment and martyrdom. So when you're constantly doing for other people, or for one person in particular, with that sort of hardwiring going on in your mind that if I do this, you'll like me and whatever, and that person doesn't fulfill this sort of unknown contract because they have no idea what it is you're expecting, they think you're just being nice, then resentment builds into the relationship because you feel that they're not fulfilling their end of the bargain, so to speak. And then martyrdom can come into it as well. You know, look at me, I'm the only one that ever volunteers at the school, I'm the only one that ever does all the driving, I'm the one that does all the house, whatever, right? We've all been there, because it's a slippery slope. One minute you're being nice, the next minute you're a people pleaser, and then you're wallowing in martyrdom. It can happen to anyone. So let's have a look at some of the things that you can do or start to practice in your life that will move you and shift you further away from those people-pleasing behaviors. And the first and foremost absolute one, if you only walk away with one from tonight, and I think I've got about 6 that I really liked, the number one is to be able to say no. Learning how to say no is like any other muscle, And it's not something that we are, a lot of people anyway, are very strong at being able to do. So the word no in of itself is actually a full sentence. So if someone asked you to help them with something or do something or take them somewhere or pay for something, you can simply just say no. Now what people pleasers do is they say, and if no actually falls out of their mouth, then it is automatically followed by a million different reasons, excuses, and explanations as to why it needs to be a no. Which is actually saying, I need to kind of honor myself right now, so I'm going to say no, but I still want you to like me, and I still want you to be my friend, and I still want you to ask me again some other time, and right? Like you fall into that, but don't let me drown in the fact that I've just said no to you. Rescue me, rescue me. So learning how to say no is huge. Now it can be something simple. You don't have to, if saying no and just letting that pregnant pause after the no is just excruciating, then you can say no, I'm sorry, that won't work for me. And in whatever tone you want to do it in, whatever way you do it with the eye contact or whatever, it softens the no just a little bit, but it doesn't need to be followed up with a great big explanation. If someone asks you to do something for them and it's just not going to work for you, if that feels like it's taking you out of integrity with yourself, hi Linda, then follow it up with, no, geez, I'm sorry, but that just isn't going to work for me. And that helps you soften it a little bit, but you need to have these like scripts. Hi Anne, you need to have these scripts like ready in your head, ready to go, because right now as a people pleaser, if that's what you feel that you are doing, is your knee-jerk reaction is to say yes. And then you get in your car or you put the phone down and you think to yourself, oh, why did I agree to that? I really don't have the time, the energy, the patience, whatever. Which brings me to my second one, which is learn to take a pause. So when someone asks you to do something for them, learn to pause. Learn to sit with it, check with your body, run through your head and your schedule. Can I actually fit this in and stay in integrity with myself? Can I do this extra one thing on top of the other things that I need to do today and stay in a good mood and stay in a good place and stay in alignment and in integrity with myself? And if it's a yes, then yes, sure. But if it's a no or a maybe, then we need to go back to number one and we need to get comfortable with saying no. But taking that pause, if knee-jerk no doesn't work for you, but we want to move you away from knee-jerk yes, then the middle somewhere is pause. And the pause can either be like simply just space between their asking and you answering, or it can be, I can't answer you right now, can I get back to you? Hi Iris. Welcome home. So buy yourself the pause, buy yourself the time, knowing that if you're a people pleaser, your knee-jerk behaviors is to say yes automatically and then maybe regret it later. Then set a new intention for yourself that you're not ever going to answer anyone about anything right away. So I do this with my son because he's very, very persistent. He'll want an answer now. And I've actually started parenting from the place where I say to him, if you want me to answer you now, then the answer is no. If you want a yes answer, then you will wait and give me time to think about it. But if you want an answer right now, I'll give you one, but it's no. So when you sort of work from that space, I mean, that's a good parenting one for those of you with teenagers. But if you work from that space where no matter what anyone asks of me, I will always buy myself a pause, then that's a really great tool to have in your box. And then you want to work towards being able to say no. Now, what if, excuse me, what if it needs to be a yes? So sometimes, and I know I've navigated all of this stuff, and I'm not perfect at it by any stretch, but what if your yes needs some limits on it, or should have limits on it? So I've been invited into situations myself, and I can think of one in particular where I was helping a friend move. And if I said yes, like she put the shout out, I need friends, I need someone to help, people to come and help me move. And I knew that if I showed up there on Saturday morning at 9, I could feasibly still be there at 8 o'clock on Sunday night. So I checked in with myself and I thought, you know what? I want to help. From my heart, I want to help. I know she would do the same for me, but I just really know that once I get there, it'll become a slippery slope and I'm going to be sucked into the whole weekend's worth because saying no is difficult for me, right? So having a limit on what your yes looks like, having some boundaries, is another great way to sort of peel yourself back from the autopilot of being a people pleaser. So when people ask you for things, you know, can you drive Johnny to soccer and back? You know what? I'd love to. I would be happy to drive him, and maybe we could ask one of the other moms to pick him up. About the move. I'm happy to help you. Which day do you think you need me more? Saturday or Sunday? Or I'm happy to come. I can come from 12 until 3 on Saturday, and then from 10 till 12 on Sunday if you need me then. So it's all about framing your yes. It's not a, I'm going to dive in, excuse me, head first into this. Yes, you can have me, all of me, my arms and legs and everything, which is what a lot of people pleasers do. It's about putting some limits and some boundaries on it. So it can be a yes, but maybe that yes needs to look like a yes for them that's still in integrity with you and where your boundaries and your limitations as far as energy goes. I mean, we all have busy households, busy families, jobs, careers, businesses. There's all a lot going on. And, you know, living other people's lives as well as ours is just not feasible. So, putting a limit on your availability. Stop apologizing. Oh my goodness. I've got a blog on my website saying thank you is the new I'm sorry. And people pleasers tend to apologize for everything. And I'm thinking of one friend of mine, she's moved away now and we're not as close as we were, but she would, you know, I would phone her and say, I need to talk, I've had a bad day. And she'd say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I had such a bad day. And yes, that's lovely. And then it would be like, I'm sorry that this happened, and I'm sorry that you had a fight with your kids, and I'm sorry that, like, stop saying you're sorry. If things are not your fault, then don't say you're sorry. Because when you say you are sorry, the internal wiring in the unconscious mind is that you did something bad. So every time you say I'm sorry, and it's really needless, you're just wiring yourself that you're bad, which plays directly into the other issue that many of us have about self-confidence and self-worthiness. So if you can think of someone, and maybe it's you, that goes around in the world saying they're sorry to everyone about everything that ever happened to any of them, think about how much wiring is going in the unconscious that's telling that person that they're not worthy. So only apologize for what you actually need to apologize for. And if it's not yours to apologize for, say nothing or find some other comment to make that makes you feel connected to the other person. But stop saying so many I'm sorries. Okay? Thank you. Okay. I'll go to that one in a minute. The last one is that you need to understand that you don't have to be everybody's everything. And this goes back to the little part that I talked about with parenting, that at a soul level, and for a lot of people on a life skill level, we are here to learn, expand, and grow our experiences. Now, people pleasers tend to be enablers because they don't want their loved ones, their friends, whoever the other person is, to have to go through anything hard. We would rather take it on ourselves, or we think we know better on how to handle a situation or a thing or an event or whatever. We think we know better. So we want to take that on and take that burden off the other person. Who are we to dabble in that person's growth experiences by taking it away from them? Because that quite often is what we're doing by being a people pleaser. We are, by rescuing the other person all the time, we are keeping them in victim. They're not learning from their experiences because we're saving them from them all the time. And parenting's a big one on this. For sure it is. And I have to keep myself in check very often because I have one child that tends to fall into that place quite often. But we are not meant to be everyone's everything. We are not the masters of the universe. We are not the saviors of the world. It is okay for us to sit still and quiet in the space of compassion and allow the other person to trip, to fall, to triumph, to conquer, to learn. That's called holding space. It is our job to hold space for the ones we love, but it's not our job to rescue them from it. So, recap, and then one last sort of reframe. Learn how to say no in whatever way makes you comfortable, but move forward in a direction that allows you to feel more comfortable saying no when you need to say no. Learn to take a pause. Maybe that needs to be your new behavior. If you're not quite at no, then taking the pause, not giving an answer right away, buying yourself a little bit of time to word it, frame it, check with your body, see how it feels. Take a pause. Stop saying you're sorry. Limit your yeses. So if your yes still needs to be a yes, then put some boundaries on it. Yes might be that you'll be willing to do half the work, but not all the work, or an actual time frame that works better for you, that still makes you feel like you've been a contributing member to your friendship or your family or whatever, but doesn't have to completely drain you. Understand that everybody's on their own path and that other people need to learn how to do their stuff, and that it's not up to people pleasers to rescue them from their stuff all the time. So, when we go back to the whole concept of being a people pleaser, you're looking for outward validation that will help you feel loved, safe, and secure, that will help build your self-confidence and worthiness. That's sort of my definition, if you want to call it, about what a people pleaser is. So if you were able to say no, put some limits on your yeses, stop saying you're sorry, let other people figure out their own stuff, all of those things, you're going to find that you have maybe a little bit more space up here, a little bit more time, and a little bit more energy. And what will you do with that? You will practice self-care. You will learn how to love, nurture, and be there for yourself so that you will be building your self-confidence and sense of worthiness from within so that you don't have to be looking for it from outside. So for every time that you say no, not right now, I can't, it doesn't suit me, it's not in integrity with where I'm feeling and my energy levels are right now, you are actually saying yes to yourself. And if that means going to bed early, having a bath, reading a book, going for a walk, going to a yoga class, a lot of you have worked with me, you know the list, you know the different ways that you can do self-care for yourself. That's what you're buying. And you replace the behaviors of expending your energy on outward people, saving them from their stuff, trying to build your self-confidence from the outside, and you use that time and energy to go back within yourself. That is how you stop the people-pleasing behaviors. That is how you show up with a cup so full that you can say yes when you need to, no when they need you to say no, and to bring it all into balance. So, I think I covered it. I think I covered enough. Probably been on here a while. So just one more reminder. I said I would say this at the beginning and say it at the end. Think about the people in your life. Think about how you show up, and think about this phrase. People pleasers attract takers. End of story. All right. So anyway, anyone have any questions or comments or anything that they would like to share with regards to this people-pleasing discussion? Please type it in now. And while someone might be typing, I will just remind you of the events and activities. I'm always available for one-on-one coaching, hypnotherapy, or energy work. The energies have been a little bit tricky to get around I'd say the last week or so. So that's something that people might be looking into or looking for some relief. Wednesdays at my house, meditation, 10:30 in the morning or 7:30 in the evening. We do group guided meditation. It's a sense of community. We are here to support you in your journey through sharing and learning, and whatever happens to come out, we just deal with it that day. Everybody always leaves my place on a Wednesday feeling a little bit lighter and supported and loved. So that's really important. And this coming Sunday, I am so excited. My vision board workshop has been up-leveled. This is the concept that I'm calling it. I put out to the universe that I wanted to do the vision board workshop. And I shopped around places, and I said on the last video that I got a deal on a rental space at a hotel. And it could only hold so many people. And I actually sold out that many people and had a couple of people that were waiting. And so I worked the numbers, and I'm like, okay, if I can come up with, I think it was 5 or 6 more people, then it's totally doable to move to the bigger space. And then we just keep selling tickets. So, sorry, I was just reading somebody's comment. So what we're looking at right now is that the vision board workshop is still open for registration, although there have been emails and posts that have been to the contrary. All I can say is this is an up-leveling, not just for me, but this is the universe saying Sheila's offering this, and we want to open up some more space for more people to be able to come. That's the way I'm looking at it. That anytime you're together with a group of people, and some people come and then they don't come, and then they sign up and they can't, and they, whoever the group ends up being at the end of the day that actually bums in seats, they are the group that the universe has put together for a reason. There are no coincidences that when you go out in a group and you discover that, the woman sitting across from you is your next door neighbor's sister or whatever, there are no coincidences. So if you are thinking that you are meant to be here, if you feel you might be getting the nudge, please register. I'm giving everyone until Friday at noon. Register and bring a friend. It's a great, 4 or 5 hours to spend chatting with your girlfriend. I'm going to be doing a talk on manifesting. I'll be giving tips around the world of energy. Each and every guest is going to receive energy work from me personally, where I will align them, remove whatever fears or obstacles are holding them back from whatever their vision is on their vision board, and align them to that. So it's going to be a fantastic event, and I'm so excited that the universe is really blowing wind up our backs to make sure that this is a great event and that lots of people get to be able to be a part of it. So I will leave that with you. Hi, Barbara. I will see some of you on Wednesday. I'm hoping to see the rest of you on Sunday if you haven't already signed up. If you have questions or comments regarding people pleasing or anything on this video, please put it in the comments. I'll be keeping my eye out for those of you watching on the replay. I think that's all for today. Yes. Okay. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much for helping me build this community. I love our group. I love what we do. I love the posts. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm gappy. The energies are weird today. I'm having trouble keeping my head straight. Okay, I'm just gonna love yous and leave you. I'll talk to you soon. See you all soon. Bye.